Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to go over basic tape measure skills. I know a lot of people are intimidated by construction and skilled labor because they're unfamiliar with this tool right here. So in this video, I'm going to demystify this little beast and make it way more accessible for the average person. And by the time you finish this video, you'll be reading a tape measure like a pro. And by the way, we're only going to go over the imperial system. That means inches and feet, because you know what? This is America. Now, the main purpose of a tape measure is to get repeatable results. That means that if you measure a piece of lumber, you are going to get the same number multiple times, no matter if you're using a Milwaukee, a Stanley Fat Max, you will get the same number measuring that same piece of lumber. On a basic tape measure, you have your 1 inch mark, and all of these hash marks mean something. In fact, let me make things a little bit easier and break it down to more simpler terms. So I blew up 1 inch into 16 equal pieces, and this is the 1 inch symbol, right? You see these two little lines right here. This is symbolizing an inch. So if we remember basic algebra, you cannot have an even number on top and an even number on bottom. You have to reduce these numbers down to their simplest terms, or otherwise you'll look pretty foolish. If you were to call out like 12/16 to the carpenter, they would say, what the hell is that? So you have to make sure that you reduce it down. So I'm going to show you the progression of reducing all these numbers down. Now I'll show you what it looks like with eighths. So as you can see, you still have like the 1/16 that remains the same. All these odd numbers on top all remain the same. 5/16, 9, 13, all those. But all the numbers with even numbers on top became eighths now. So that's 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4, and so on and so forth. But as you can see, still, these numbers are still even on top. These have to be reduced down one more time. So when you further reduce down eighths, you start getting quarters. So you see how you had an even number right here still. When you go reduce that down, you're now going to have quarters. And instead of going from 16/8 to fourths, in construction, we do quarters instead. So never call out 3/4 or 1/4. It's going to be 1/4 or 3/4. Okay, and this is going to be your final reduction. You're going to take 2 quarters and make it 1/2, and 4 quarters and make it 2 halves or 1 inch. This is your final cheat sheet. As you can see, 1/16, 3/16 going on down, 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, 5/8, 7/8. This is going to be your final cheat sheet for your inch mark. Also, real quick, real simple, this is the halfway mark, as you've seen before. This is 1/2, this is 1/4, and this is 3/4. So once you know that, it makes it fairly easy to just, okay, 4/16 is a quarter, 8/16 is a half, and 12/16 is 3/4. And you can kind of go from there. So say if you had a number, maybe 15/16, you already know that's 12. So you go 13, 14, 15. It makes it much easier. So these are kind of like your benchmarks. So you kind of know once you get the quarter, the half, and the 3/4 down, everything else becomes so much easier. Now, if you say, okay, what is 5/16? Well, you already know that 4 is a quarter. 1 more is 5/16. Now, if you're looking for 3/8, same thing. 3/8 is actually 6/16. So you know that's 4 right there. 2 more, boom, 3/8. So you have to kind of just play with it a little bit more, but you're really gonna get into a cycle of knowing, okay, I know what 12 is, I know what 8 is, I know what 4 is, and it's work around those numbers. Now let's get into some practical applications for what we just learned. Now this piece of lumber right here is going to be around 3. It's supposed to be 3.5, but it actually is 3 7/16. And the way you write that down would be 3 7/16, and then make sure you make these 2 little hashes so you know that that is a inch. Now on the other side of the 2x4, we're going to measure it, and you can see right here it's not quite 1.5 inches. It looks like it is about 1 7/16 inches. And so again, you're going to write that as 1 inch 7/16, and don't forget these 2 hash marks. That's very, very important to indicate that is a inch. Now let's say you wanted to cut down this piece of 2x to 1'5" and 3/8. How you'd write that down would be, this is the 1 foot, and this little mark right here indicates it's a feet, and then you have a dash right here so you can separate them, and you'd have 5 3/8 inches. You see how you have 2 dashes right here? And the way you'd mark that on your lumber would be, first you find your 1 foot mark, and then you go 5 inches past, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's 3/8. So you have your 1/8, your 2/8, and then finally your 3/8 right here, and you make a little crow's foot right here. That's the little mark right here, and then get your speed square, line it up, and there you go. And before you cut, you want to make sure you double check. You're gonna see that it's 17 inches and still again 3/8. Now some tapes have some give in their hooks, and that's because sometimes you are going to use the width of your hook in your measurement and sometimes you're not. So when you're pulling, your hook is not going to be involved, and that's why you had that gap. But if you were to bump this 2x, you actually are going to use the width of the tape of your hook itself. So that's going to come into the equation for your measurement. So that give and pull is the width of your actual hook for your tape measure. Now, I don't want to make this video too complex. It's really about just getting familiar with the fractions, getting familiar with reading your tape measure, because that's what you're willing to know right now. But there is something on the tape that I think is important that you should know moving forward so that you don't make a mistake in the field. Now, if you see right here, the 16-inch mark, that's your stud layout for the most part. If you're doing 16 on center stud layout, that's there on purpose because it makes it easy to read. But if you were to start off your framing, you would not start off on the 16-inch mark. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna center that. So by centering that, you know that this 2x right here is supposed to be 1.5 inches, and you want to split that in half. So you want to divide that in half, and so you're gonna get 3/4. Obviously, you might need a calculator for that, but so 3/4 is what the halfway mark is. So you're gonna have 3/4 on this side, 3/4 on this side. You want to split that 16 on the middle of your stud for your first stud layout. Then you can run your tape and then get 16 from there. So what you wanna do is you wanna start at 15.25, should be where you first mark your first stud, and then run from there. So 15.25 should be where your first stud starts, and then move from there. So I think that's something that's very important, because I know a lot of guys would just see the 16-inch mark and say, okay, let me start from there, and then you're gonna be missing a lot of studs if somebody comes behind you and tries to either install drywall or a dense glass. You're gonna make things really frustrating because it's gonna be about 3/4 off. So that's something important to know when you first get started off, that your first stud is actually gonna be 15.25, so that you split this in half. Like I said before, it doesn't matter what brand of tape measure you're using. The most important thing is that you're actually using your tape and you're practicing with it. These things will become second nature the more you use it. Certain fractions are on your tape just because you've done it so often. Again, do not get a tape with the fractions on there, because that's going to stunt your growth and it's going to handicap you moving forward. So just take the time to learn your tape, and then overall it's going to pay dividends in the future. Again, in the video you can screenshot it. I have a little cheat sheet right there where it shows exactly what everything is. It's fairly simple. If you like this type of content, please like, subscribe. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.